After spending the first 3 weeks of my expedition exploring the magic of Belize, I have traveled west across the border and into the densely forested Bataan region of Guatemala. This region has been called one of the lungs of the world because of its vigorous vegetation growth. Tropical rainforests such as the Bataan are responsible for replenishing vital amounts of oxygen back into the Earth's atmosphere. The realization of this fact by environmental scientists from around the world has been instrumental in the recent conservation efforts here in Guatemala. Comprising the northern third of the country, the Bataan region was once dominated by one of the most advanced civilizations on Earth, the ancient Maya. And as they flourished throughout this region for thousands of years, no city was more important to the Mayan world than the ceremonial city of Tikal.
The Maya were geniuses in math, science, astronomy, and quite obviously, engineering and architecture.
These colossal ruins have endured the ravages of time to serve as a testimony to the thriving metropolis that was Tikal. More than 150,000 residents once lived in this great Mayan city that many historians have called the New York City of the ancient world. Entombed for more than 1,000 years, Tikal was a lost city. Until 1956, when archaeologists began to uncover this magnificent lost world. Antonio Ortiz was a young man at that time, with a passion for archaeology and a spirit for adventure. No one man has spent more time in Tikal since its discovery than Mr. Ortiz.
And in 1947, I was actually involved in doing the airport in Tikal. That was long before the excavation, the archaeological expedition. I met a lot of different archaeologists from Carnegie Institution, and one of those archaeologists was Dr. Edwin M. Shook. He was the field director of the Tikal project. In 1955, he wrote me and explained me the idea of working in Tikal. And I discovered in that year temple the inscription, temple number 6, by accident, really. Meanwhile, I found a little village. What made me to feel that there was a little village, a little humps? And finally, it was excavated and I found burial guns, a little bell, and bottles. But the main work was concentrated in the main plaza, like the North Acropolis. Everything, such a heavy jungle. You see, where you start. You could not see even from here to that wall. It was all grown, heavy jungle on top. The more I see, the more I know, the Mayans are most wonderful culture, really.
Antonio's work at Tikal has inspired a great respect for the ancient Maya and a sincere appreciation for a lifetime of adventure.
Everything I did it, I'm very happy I did it. Poor, working, whatever. That's been my life. I always, thanks to God, that I have a wonderful life, really. Wonderful life, working.
The archaeological work being done here at Tikal is providing scientists with valuable clues as they attempt to unravel the mystery surrounding the sudden collapse of the ancient Maya. Following in his legendary father's footsteps, Carlos Ortiz has devoted his life to the conservation and education efforts here in Tikal.
So my father brought his family from Huachactún, and there was a camp, little camp. At that time, he was allowed to have his family, and this is how I was born in Tikal, which is a privilege to born in a national park. University Museum of Pennsylvania, back to 56 to 69, for 13 years they were doing this process, which is mapping Tikal. They map about 16 square kilometers, where they localize about 3,000 structures. They found evidence of the first settlements of Tikal back to 800 BC. The Mayas were here until 900 AD. So for 17 centuries, the Mayas were building Tikal. The estimated population in the classic period of Tikal is considered about 150,000 people, second largest city of Mesoamerica. Tikal was abandoned 900 AD. 1,200 years of abandon, the jungle is back. When the archaeologists start to excavate this, they found hills, covered by jungle. So first of all, they have to take all this forest, all this dirt from erosion, from sedimentation, trying to find out what was or how well preserved was the original structure. Because the Mayas, originally, they covered with plaster the buildings for decoration and for color. These cities were red cities. They get the red color from the mahogany tree. So this is the consequence of 1,200 years of abandon.
Due to the vast size of this archaeological site and the tedious nature of the work involved, it will be decades before the excavation of Tikal is complete.